how did your guys' faith journey begin? But if you want to, I guess, focus more on how has it evolved over time. So either of you can go first.
Ooh.
Yeah, I told you I'm coming hot this time. I'm coming in hot this time.
Right. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. I'm your host Mila.
And I'm your host Mela.
If you're new here, if you're a Firstie,
We're basically a safe space for first gens who dare to dream.
we like to laugh, kiki, argue.
Basically, two baddies with a mic.
With the mic.
Are
we gonna sing every episode now?
Every
Like, at this
time.
point?
And I feel like we're getting better.
And I'm on the mic, y'all, and I just want to confirm that was really bad.
So that's Miriam behind the camera.
It was not good at all.
So Miriam, our producer, can confirm it's bad.
Yeah.
I disagree. It's because Miriam's not in it.
Maybe we should stick
join
about
it.
it.
Period. And I'm not going to join.
All right, she's not joining. All right, let's jump into that.
That was awkward. Anyways, Moving on.
Before we get to this episode, thank you for anyone, this person right now who's listening to this episode, either listening to it or watching it. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so very
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you for engaging.
Yes.
Thank you for literally interacting with us in any way.
Yeah, it really actually means the world to us. We literally just had a meeting and talking about it. Like, we absolutely like are obsessed. So please continue to do that and stick around. So Miriam actually kind of came up with a low-key kind of this concept. We actually, all of us did, but she's actually going to lead this concept. Is she listening?
Yeah.
Oh. She's just like,
I'm tapped
Yeah.
so what are we talking about today, Vera?
So we're going to be talking about faith. We're just going to tap into both of your guys' I guess, like, testimonies and what you guys really believe in that category. So we'll just get right into it.
Ready?
We're getting
Okay. So we'll, like, go.
Oh, she's locked in. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't I mean, yeah.
Actually.
Okay, so we're going to start first. So
on the 7th day.
we can, really though, we can get into it. What? But okay, we can start with either of you. So, how did your guys' faith journey begin? But if you want to, I guess, focus more on how has it evolved over time. So either of you can go first.
Ooh.
I told you I'm coming hot this time. I'm coming in hot this time.
Right. Shoot, that's why she was so excited to do this episode.
Yeah,
because I can really thrive. Yeah, I can really thrive in this. Yeah.
I love that about you.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you want to go ahead?
Okay.
One of you guys, yeah. So you got it, or dreams are
yeah, basically, like, where did your faith journey start, and also how did it evolve, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, I would have to say I found Jesus in college. Like, Jesus was always around me, obviously, in our family and stuff, and growing up Orthodox Christian. But, like, when I started to seek a relationship with him, like, just me, not anyone tell me to read my Bible or go to church.
Yeah.
Was in college. And I think it was because you went away from your home and you're, like, trying to figure ish out. And it was just a very confusing, but also fun, but also anxious. You guys remember college. Like, it was chaotic, but also fun, all that stuff. So that's where I kind of started to, like, seek him myself. And then I started to have my own relationship with him. Now, how it's evolved now is that it's a daily relationship now. Where before, I just dibble-dabbled, if I'm honest. Very lukewarm, very just like, hey, what's up? What's tea? You know what I mean? But now it's like I start my day with him. I end my nights with him. I would probably say this, so. I'll be running for president as well, so.
So you definitely had that, like, that moment.
I'm sure you're similar, but go ahead.
Yeah, you had that, like, relationship go over time, and then now you say you're, you know, getting out.
And actually something we talked about earlier on another episode was, I think before I just saw it as, like, these commandments. And something that's evolved is now it's just a relationship. So, like, I don't want to disappoint someone that I love. I don't, this love that I'm earning from, that I know that I have with Jesus is more of a protective love. So I don't want to do certain things because there are certain parameters that he set for our protection more than like, because when I was younger, I think I told you this before, like, I just thought Jesus was like the fun police. Like, I was like, we can't do this. You know what I mean? Because
it seems like rules more than, like, a relationship that you said that comes from.
But I was listening more to the culture of church, which wasn't the text. That's just how the culture does it. So what are your thoughts? Or tell me your
I feel like
journey.
my journey is completely, like, opposite, because I feel like I lost God when I was, like, in college.
Same.
But you can't really, like, lose, like, he was always there, but, like, I had,
you
like,
have the faith, but
it's like my back was turned and looking at the wall, and, like, God is behind me, but, like, obviously I'm not choosing to turn around, so, like, I feel like I lost God. Do you know what I mean?
So when you growing up,
I grew up in a very, like,
around you? Okay.
Yeah. So, like, my grandpa, like, he's the one that really, like, you know, got me into religion, everything. Like, when he went to church, like, I went with him and everything. But you know, like how like the grandparents, like the way they see religion is like they're really, really like scared of God, and God is like terrifying. You're going to hell. Everything is like condemned to hell, whatever. So,
and I do agree there should be fear in that relationship, but that fear comes from out of like reverence more than like being turned away.
I think your fear should come from like you never want to experience like a life without God.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so you would want to like do right by him because you don't want to experience life without his presence and stuff like that. Yeah. But usually it's like you're condemned to hell and stuff. And
it's so hard.
And it's judgment that plays into that.
And there's no
well.
going back. And it's like,
exactly.
There's no, they don't talk about, they also, I think on a previous episode I had a pastor on, and he said like, Christians are known for things they're not for, but like, what are we for? We're for love. We're for forgiveness.
Exactly.
We're for understanding. Yeah. Like, can we talk about that? Because it's always about like, don't do this, don't do that. Like, that's how I grew up in the church. And I'm like, okay, but can we talk about like what he's for? Like,
because you grow up, I never really knew like how he was. I just knew that like what he's against, or like you know, like whatever. So like I grew up fearing God, and I've touched upon it like in like a lot of episodes where like I literally did not even pray directly to God, and I prayed through like everyone else intercessions, just because I just couldn't face, because I feared him so much. Like I never spoke to God. So like when I went to college, and then I was also like part of like, you know, like is it like choir? Not choir, but like, you know, church groups, like youth groups and stuff like that. So through that, like when you don't really have like a one-on-one relationship with God, and then you're deep like in like church communities, like it kind of gets to your head, or you do like, you know, you're not really like, you're not there for the right purposes. So that kind of like made me like stray away. So when I got to college, I was literally just not for that. I was just completely like turned away. But then I had like a scary situation where I'm like, I didn't even know how to come back because I didn't have a personal relationship with God. Do you know what I mean? So I was having like issues of like even like feeling his presence or whatever, because I didn't know what to look for to like, you know, detect like, oh, that's God and that's not, or whatever. Yeah. And so I had like, after graduating, I had like I read my Bible by myself, did not go to like organized religion, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I tried to find it myself first, and then went into the community. And now we're locked in, and we like this, and you can't let us.
He's actually a third co-host. I hope y'all know.
First co-host, actually.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, that's so good. And I agree with like both of your guys' statements of people do shy away from the community because of out of fear of like judgment or like you said, rejection. But then you realize like that shame or like fear that you feel is from obviously the devil being placed on you.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And that's what he would want from you, is to be like, oh, I don't even want to come back. Yeah. Like I'd rather just be
exactly. Or even like the fear of like you can't face God after everything you've done, because it's like how real can I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
it's
100%.
Like a lot of people go through that.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, like,
and you know,
he's a merciful God. So
the quote starting to up to you of like, you don't go enter the shower clean, like you come in dirty.
Oh,
of like that really opened my eyes, and it's like you're not coming to God perfect. Which people think that you have to be like
a shower if they're clean.
Like exactly. So it's like that's a good analogy of like you don't come in already like, and no one, you're obviously, you could be sanctified, like you could be like, you're already saved, so it's like that's enough for you to come as you are, you know. So that's a good analogy, but I agree too. Someone said that, and I was like, wow, like that's and that would affect, that would help a lot of people come to God more, and like you don't feel that like fear of like, well, I sinned, I did that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like God knew when those rules, the commandments came out, that you were already going to break them, which is why he died. So it's like there's no need for you to not to come back.
That's so true,
and not after he already paid that. Sorry to say lady, but he already paid that with his blood. So it's like you don't have to come back and like feel like I have to be like all clean in that sense.
I think it's like when you first come in, you see God like from the standards of like you have like in other people, where like if I offend you, I'd feel really bad coming back because I feel like you would still hold on to it. But God is
not a person.
Not like so it's like it's so hard.
You do view him as like human. You're right.
Yeah. But then the more I feel like you realize, even like I had times where I'm like, I know God, or like I love God and respect God, but then I was filling into like who he is that would fit my like
you're projecting.
I was projecting. Like, no, God would let me do that, or God would have did it. He did not say he let me do that in the Bible at all. But I'm just like, for my sake,
100%. You give yourself excuses.
He loves me, whatever.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but then the more you read the Bible, then you see like, okay, like you can come dirty and like, you know, you'd be clean, whatever. But then at the same time, like, girl, like actually, like, you know, change and do your whatever.
But what you just said right there is from reading your Bible, meaning like when I was younger, everything I knew about God was what people told me. I never sought him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, me too.
So then understanding that like girl, your sins are already paid. But people would say that and stuff, but you don't really understand until you read the text and you have prayer and you have time within, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
So like that's really on, I can only speak for myself, but that's really on me, where I just like almost like interpreted Jesus through what people told me, which was the older generation, which was like, you know, people who, I feel like our parents grew up in a different time in a different country, and it's just different.
It's what they're taught.
So if you don't do it the way that they say, you just feel judged, and then you feel directed, and you're like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna go hang out with these people, or do whatever makes me feel, makes my flesh feel good, which is not necessarily the best thing to do sometimes. That has been like a journey for me too, where I'm like, well, before I didn't seek him before. I just like interpreted, even on media, what I interpreted too. Like, as crazy as that is,
people think you could. That's a controversial topic. There, you can't find your faith on social media. Correct. Like, that alone is not enough for you to build any type of spiritual life. Yeah,
exactly. And I had to like, I used to be like I knew about God like from what people said or like what my parents said or whatever. Yeah. But then I had to like sit back and realize like our generation and our parents' generation are completely different. Where my grandma she doesn't even know how to read. Like, she does not know the Bible, but her faith is really strong because of like how they grew up. And it's really easy for them. But like, we're a very curious generation. You question things and stuff like that. So if you're just like listening to your mom and your grandma and not actually like reading the Bible and then making your own like
seem like laws
and
though,
stuff.
at that point.
Yeah, then it's like you're obviously gonna like be led astray. But like for us, I feel like we need to know, like, read the Bible so we actually know who he is.
100%.
And then like you're literally automatically gonna like end up following him. If that's the case. But like usually it's like, but they said, or people do, or communities do, and that's the one thing.
It's legalistic. That's where the views of like. I mean, this is exactly why who's our favorite.
Paul. Anyways,
oh no! Oh, that's very awkward. I said Paul. You're so the audio clipped. I know. That was my fault. But you're right. I do love Emmy too. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like, Paul, come on.
So we love Paul because he talks about a lot in the New Testament of like the legalistic Christians and like breaking out of the norms of there's certain laws that you have to follow in order to be Christian, and that's what like people believed then. But like he came down to break that. So I think for us now, we don't have to live off what our parents and their generations told us of like you can't eat. Like, it's so based off like no pork, no piercings, no tattoos, and it's like that's the only thing that they're basing it off of. But there's no actual relationship outside of that. And it's way deeper than that. Like I said, there's faith and there's like works that come involved, and like we're not saying no to either, but it's deeper than like the legalistic rules and stuff like that. So I agree.
And I feel like I had a toxic mindset where like I judged the religion based on like the believers or like based on the people instead of like
which you shouldn't do.
Which you shouldn't do, but like coming out of like I was literally in the community and in the culture, and then everyone's like, at some point like you're around a lot of judgmental people where like they're like, you're condemned, oh my God, Hermela, like you can't have
very
another
piercing.
So
I don't blame you.
Exactly. Like you're over here like going crazy about my piercing, but then you're talking shit, or you know what I mean? Like little things that I saw, like I was basing the religion and like the faith because like through the people, but like obviously can't do that. So how do you guys think you can like create like a healthy relationship where like you can also be like in communities and stuff like that? Because it's easier to have your personal walk with Christ, but then you always have like face these issues where like when you're back in communities or like a bigger gatherings basically. So how do you guys think, like, what's like the healthy way to balance those out?
It's good to have. I think at first I was like so like same with you said, I needed to be solo. I was like, I can navigate the ship on my own, like it's a me and God thing, mom, like don't worry about it, and then it's like it's like a way that you protect yourself because you don't want to take accountability, and like if someone who's also of the faith is gonna check you, you're like, no, I'm good. And I would get so defensive, and I'm like, and I'm like, I'm only getting defensive because you're not doing the right thing, so it's like I think once you have other people in your life that like again, like I think we've done a great job of like having community within our own self. We have like Bible study, or like we all got split ways, but we'll start back up again. But but we still like have these talks like frequently, about our faith and like holding each other accountable. And like you said, we've said it before too, of when you know where that person is coming from, and where they're rooting their opinions or advice like for you from, you accept it, if that makes sense. So just being able to take accountability and having people who can check you is like, it really makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, that's how I had the same thing where my first like journey was I was defensive, or this is also very dangerous. I thought I knew it all.
Literally.
And like genuinely thought I knew it all, and I did not know ish. Like, I'm being so serious. Have you ever heard like the most dangerous person is a person who's a little bit of something, but they take that little information and they like blow it up. Yeah, like they think they're an expert because they just know a little bit of something. Yeah, that's a lot of people.
True, yeah.
And I would get very, very defensive. We're kind of now through prayer, through asking for Jesus to like soften my heart and open up my mind and all that stuff. Because again, we're only human. Because I only became this person through the environment that I was in, which was my childhood.
Right? True, yeah.
Which was the best childhood ever, but there were some tough times as well. It's opened me up to like having this community, which we're talking about us and the women around us. Really, it's a lot of women, honestly. We're like very lucky.
Love it, yeah.
Around us, yeah. Men too, but like women. Where I know the source now. Because why? For me, it was more so like, now that I understand Jesus, and I understand that Jesus is in all of us, when I've had that relationship with you, when you check me, if I come off like, girl, I think the source is like yucky or not pure. But if I know you're coming to me and saying, hey, girl, let me help you with these jeans or whatever. Yeah. It's not you coming for me or whatever. Girl, you're trying to help me out. Yeah. Something's on my jeans. Like, that's a very light example. But now I see it more as like, oh, the source is love.
Yeah.
With the people that you trust and that you
100%, yeah.
Right? That's not.
And you have that confirmation, like, you'll pray about it as well. But like you said, you know it's coming from a place that they also have that relationship with God from, and it's not
so
just
knowing
anybody.
Like which community you're also like going into, like actually knowing who the people are first.
Yeah. And also, I mean, you know this too, though. Like, we have conversation all the time. Just this content creating life is like ups and downs. There's self-doubt. Right. Your brain attacks you with just like your thoughts and your insecurities, and like you shaking me up with my faith and vice versa. And you need that in community to like make it. Like, we're not able to do this without our faith.
Exactly.
It's just
100%.
not. So it's just not. Yeah.
Really though. So that I guess possible. Leads into both of you guys. And like, how do you think in those moments where you had your faith kind of wavering a bit, like you're at a low point, whether it be like in your career, like at school, any of that, like how did you maintain your faith? Or how do you maintain your faith? Like, how do you trust God through all of that?
Oh, that's a good question.
For me,
girl, I've been studying Book of Job to be like, girl, how do I
love like, Job down, yeah.
Like, I think
love Job down.
I feel like my favorite verse is Hebrew,
we'll get to
Hebrew 13:8, because it kind of ties down to that. And it says it's basically Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. Yes, and that literally, I feel like there hasn't been any situation where that just has not applied. Because like, let's say like I'm anxious or I'm like, like depressed or whatever. When I look in the Bible and I read a story where God has done this for like, he saved someone or he's perform miracles or whatever, that's the same God that I'm also praying to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even in my life, like the same God that I prayed, there's so many things that I'm like, I'm living like the things that I prayed for. Yeah. So obviously then other things that I'm also praying for, he's the same God that's done that for me. So he'll also, continue to do that. Or like,
and you don't realize it in the moment.
Yeah. Even as something like simple as like, he literally woke me up today. So like, the same God who protected me through this whole day and got me to this chair.
Your family, everyone,
Exactly. So I feel like that verse has literally just like changed my life. I feel like that's like my favorite.
It wasn't until I met someone, and then it was the first time I experienced like true joy in someone else's life. I'm not talking about they were funny. They were like even really like fun to talk to. Nothing like that. It was just the way that they carried themselves. I was like, what are they about, really? And then the stuff that I valued as a human being, meaning maybe an impressive job, maybe like what they were wearing, whatever the case was, that wasn't what they were hitting. It was just, I don't know.
But it's this internal joy that you have in you.
Sounds so, it sounds so corny, but that's so.
But then you realize that's the real richness of life. It's not people who have the fastest cars, the biggest houses.
And I basically was like, so what are you drinking? Let me get on that juice. And it was Jesus.
Yeah, it was Jesus.
And then I found him. Yeah.
And you can see that, like I said, through how they are. And like you said, you notice it from just talking to them. I don't know how many times, but you can see they have this joy that just can't be taken. Yeah.
And that's like an inspiration, because like even like SCSA, like Father Anthony, like what we learn basically
love
is,
you,
like,
Father Anthony.
We love him down. But it's basically like being not just a believer of God, but a follower. So like as you're following, basically like you're having like Christ-like mentality and you're living and walking like him. So you were even able to see that because he or she was like, they were just doing that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
So it's like, because God is love, God is kindness, generosity, and everything, you're like, when you're following him instead of just believing, then you start to exude that. Do you know what I mean?
You
so
have
then
the
people are
characteristics that he had.
Clearly you're like, you know, you're at peace, whatever. So what is, like, even the reason why you got curious is because the person was following God, not just believing him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
just think about it. They didn't use any words to you. And that's the biggest thing that he said. He said, how can you have people follow you without using any words? And that'd be like, it was your actions. That's how people saw you. And you're right. And it's like, really though, if you didn't have to speak for the rest of your life and people just saw how you were to act, what would they say about you?
Yeah.
And like, you're not calling people to a crowd.
I
absolutely.
I'm not too sure if it's Father Anthony. That's
Yours is Father Abraham.
No, also Father Abraham. But you know that he actually is at the church.
But I think he's the one that said it was like, before, like, Christians was like a mockery because like people were so distinct. Like, people who followed Jesus were like so distinct.
Because of how they behaved.
Yeah, like you can just tell. They don't have to tell you, or like they don't have to talk about Jesus. You can just tell who they are. So it was like, oh, the Christians, like followers of Christ. Like, it was like a mockery thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they were so like
locked
in with him to the point where like you don't have to say a word, and it's just what you do. Like the fruits
just
of your
your
labor is literally all on you, basically, and you're just like showing it.
And
that's major.
He had another really, really good segment, which I'm gonna watch the series again. It was the My Truth. That was the first series I attended at that church.
Really?
And it was the My Truth and the Truth, and that changed worlds for me. Like,
oh my God, I remember. Yeah.
And that discusses what we're talking about right now of how, I guess, like the new generations, or just like anyone in general, you have this idea of like you're living your truth, and then your truth is just a way. It's a self-defense mechanism of nobody can test you, because guess what? You made it up, and you can also change any day.
He said like once truth comes to the conversation, you can't debate it.
Exactly. But then, I mean, the definition of truth also, it's objective. Like truth is there's one correct answer there.
Yeah.
And he was like the truth, which, I mean, Jesus himself, the way, the truth, the life. Like, he's the way, the truth, and life.
Correct.
All that comes again. There's only one truth. You cannot have and change your idea of what your ideologies are every second, and then be like, well, that's what I believe in, so no one can test me. No one can test you because you made it up. Like, and you can make it up again as you go, which that changes so much. And I think once you,
that was a really, really good series. Like probably one of my favorite.
That is my favorite series, because
like
also then you have to watch them. It really,
Our
draw link it to be honest.
Yeah, honestly,
I will send that to anybody because it really does change a lot. And again, it takes you or makes you put your guard down of, I really don't know like anything, and that leads into the next question of how do you guys think humility plays a role in faith, in your personal growth, in your spiritual life?
Right.
I think humility.
How do you think humility plays a role?
Like, it's like, to me, that's, I think, the most important part of just religion as a whole. Because to begin with, if you're following any religion, you're submitting yourself under a God, right?
Yeah.
And that in itself there's humility involved. So how do you guys think in that sense? Like, whether it be in any aspect in your life?
I think even, like, you know how, like, even in the Bible where, like, the Jews expected God to be, like, they expected him to be born of, like, royalty and come with,
and he
like,
came to serve.
War and whatever, but he came, like, literally to serve. And what he did was, like, he washed the disciples' feet, and like knowing like God, his entire thing is like humility and like and love too. Do you know what I mean? Like his humility comes out of love. Like he loves you so much. Even the whole sending his son to on earth to die for us and everything. So I feel like humility and love are like tied together basically.
But I think ego is the killer now. No.
Oh, for sure. But like I think it's like, obviously you're gonna if you're believing in God, like you're gonna submit like under something, like a higher power regardless. You know what I mean? But I think we have issues being like submitting under like our peers or people we see, because it's easy to say like I love God and I respect God because he's a higher power. You know, he created the world and stuff like that.
Remember we said, what about if it's a Judas in your life? Are you gonna wash his feet?
But even God says like, what's it called? If you say, sorry, God, he really washed
Judas.
But it's like,
you're so right there.
Yeah, but it's like he even says like, if you say you love God and you hate your neighbor, you really don't love God. Do you know what I mean? So
not even hate your neighbor, hate your enemy. Like it's easy to love someone who loves you, but it's like, can you love someone who hates you?
Exactly. Right. So I feel like with people, I think that's also something that I'm like also working on. I feel like our ego is like our biggest
and you have to kill it every day.
Exactly, but at least like
a daily. Someone said ego stands for edging God out.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way.
She coming with the like.
No, and it's not mine. I swear it's not mine.
Yeah, no, we didn't think it was yours. Yeah, we didn't think. Yeah.
We didn't think it was yours.
I said, we didn't think it was yours. She goes, it's not mine. It's
So
not mine.
we never thought it was yours.
But I always think, because it's a daily
That is true,
battle
though.
for
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah.
it really is. When I start getting,
Exactly.
remember I told you earlier what I thought about my apartment?
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, girl, this is not yours.
Every day you get
Exactly.
humble.
I
You get to
gave you
humble
this so
yourself.
you could
Yeah.
bless other people. Like,
Exactly,
relax
exactly.
type of thing.
But
And that was a
then-
real thing, a real conversation. Yeah.
But I feel like because we have issues with our egos and we have issues with like, you know, selfishness and stuff like that. You know how like in Paul, like through his weakness is like his strength. So because I have issues with like pride or being like humble, when I have those moments where I'm humble and like, or like, you know, I'm not as prideful, I know it's God working through me because he's working through
And
my
it goes
weakness and
against
doing-
your flesh.
Yeah, and you can't
100%.
even take credit for it. Do you know what I mean? So usually when I
In those moments, you also feel uncomfortable. You know it's not
and you ain't
natural.
me.
yeah, it's not natural, it's not you. So I clearly know it's God.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
this
it's
ain't
like,
me.
yeah,
That's
it's like
facts,
it's
Carmela.
literally for
Yeah.
his glory, and it's I'm not even taking credit. I can't take credit because you're literally working through my weakness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
But-
it's the
Like,
thorn in the
I would
flesh.
not
yeah.
do this, but
I would literally like if I'm like, you
100%.
know, imagine like if you're like selfish and like
human.
you're giving to people, I'm like, clearly it's not me, it's God. So like
100%.
I'm glad like you can't even take credit in it. But
yeah,
I'd say like
Damn, that's
humility is Jesus, and
major.
you're just it's harder to love people like that you see than a God that you don't see. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
'Cause, like,
absolutely.
you're God, like you created everything, so it's easier
Yeah.
to love God. But like if you did me dirty and I can't say I love you after that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, thanks.
Which is
Oh,
hard.
clock it.
But I'm saying like
Good to know. I'm joking.
like imagine if someone
100%.
was a murderer, you can't be
Yeah.
like I love you. Do you know?
Yeah. I
But-
also think I just had real moments where he's just humbled me so many times. And Tabitha Brown actually said that. She's like, yeah, you could walk away from Jesus, but you're going to limp back.
Oh,
Like, you're just going to be like,
All
oh,
the
yeah.
time.
And he'll
Yeah.
accept you, but you're going to limp
All
back.
the
Like,
time.
I've had to, every time I've had this thing where I've had to learn a lesson multiple times, like, okay, Jesus is like, girl, you got to lock in. I'm trying to let you like
Yeah,
level up to
yeah.
this next, you know what I mean? Or not this next thing, but you guys know what I mean. Then yeah, but I've definitely
about-
had some humbling moments.
think about Jonah. He literally went the opposite direction and got swallowed.
Yeah.
Like,
Literally.
He said, "Thanks, I'll take that."
like you will get
that's
easily
literally,
like
yeah.
snatched. And but then again, like I said, it always works out for the better. It works out for your betterment. So it'll
Like we're
Yeah.
at church with our jaw on the
out.
ground, just like
yeah.
Sad.
We get
Convicted.
we get
every
a-
time.
yeah.
how many times like you would be coming in? I'm like, oh my god, I didn't know you sat there. And you're like, girl, you were locked in. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
humbled.
It's insane.
Humbled.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
How about
so
you? How
good.
do you work with like humility and stuff?
I think that's like the biggest thing that anybody has to work with, but especially me.
Yeah.
no, everyone.
I think it's like ego, pride, which is like really hard to work with because I think when you ask for that prayer of like, hey God, like not humble
I know
me,
you're
but
gonna say, "Go
yeah,
ahead."
you're like, oh, like give me strength, give me all that. But then you realize he's never gonna give you the strength up front. He's gonna put you in positions where you have
You
to
need
be
to be-
strong.
and we
Yes.
And it's like,
Literally.
oh,
It's like give me patience. For me, it's patience.
Okay.
I
Yes.
always say give me patience, and like 2 seconds,
Then
I'm
you got-
snapping.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in the
what
in the
is
car
this?
traffic, just like
exactly.
so he'll
yeah.
give you what you
Abs-
obviously. It's not the romanticized like a moment where you're like standing on top of the hill and you're like, yes,
Yeah,
like this
I'm
is
strong.
it.
Like you're never getting
never
that. Yeah.
that. It's never that. But I feel like you do learn throughout the process, which again, he sees it, but you don't in the moment. But you get to the other side, which is when you built the strength through that journey.
I think we as humans we have tough time like waiting.
100%.
Like
Very,
just so like
And
okay,
again,
what's the
it's-
lesson?
yeah.
What's this? I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, girl, just now I understand why I went through what I went through 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What
Now
I'm
you
going
get
through
it.
now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think through experience and prayer also, you are able to like it's endurance to be like, okay, girl, you've been through
100%.
he's cooking you for something. Relax.
100%.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
also,
just
I
keep
feel
it
like
close.
we sometimes like end up thinking like of God as just like an ATM where like I ask and you give it to me like right away, or it's like an instant gratification thing. And we fail to realize sometimes it's like he gives you what you need, not just what you want.
That
and
part.
when you're just like not getting it, you're like, okay, but God, like, but I prayed about it, blah, 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 but like, what if the things you're praying for, let's say like you're praying for a new car, what if he gave you that car, you would have gotten in a car accident and died? Do you know what I
Literally,
mean? Like, what
that
if he's protecting you
part.
for something that you literally would never
girl.
expect?
That's what I think. That's the one thing I have been good at of like not receiving or like not being given either opportunities. It could be
Yeah.
anything. I feel like I've always had peace and like, okay, well, it was not meant for me in that case because
You've
Yeah.
vocalized
yeah,
that
because
before,
I'm like, oh, then it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
if it
It's
wasn't
like,
for me,
that's
yeah.
the end of her.
Obviously
And
it
she's
sucks.
like,
Yeah.
No one's gonna be like
Yeah.
happy. I'm not dancing around the room, but like it's
Yeah.
kind of like dang.
Yeah, but people take like the whole like,
it's so great how you just move on. You're like, well, that's and something better is gonna come.
Yeah, but people take like, you know, the whole like asking you shall receive. Like if you ask for
too literal,
you'll get it too literally. And it's like even Jesus before getting crucified, he asked God to take it away from me. But he said, "But if it's your will and not mine."
Heavy on, it's so hard. But you're so right.
He even said, "He was like, if you will it, like you really have to like remember."
You know how crazy that is?
That's insane.
It is.
Of all, yeah.
That's also the saddest part of the Bible.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! I'll send y'all a TikTok. It was like a more like
a descriptive way of how he died. Yeah, I saw that too.
He died.
So sad.
And
we're
was
all
like,
on the same side, guys.
Yeah, you saw it? It was like Passion of Christ. He would ate that. Like
I saw that.
When I heard that, like I was actually like,
no, I was spiraling. I saw it.
I would be weeping.
100%.
I can't like it's like something like I can't even visually imagine.
Yeah.
Because I just can't. I can't sleep at night. You can't. You know.
So on that topic, how do you guys deal with your faith and then like anxiety and anxiousness and stuff? Because you're human.
I think it ties back to what I said earlier with the Matthew chapter 11. Okay. I need to get the actual.
Get me. I get the verse.
So for the audio listeners too, but it's that like I just realized how. I think now I'm comforted by like how little power I have over my life. It's like literally nothing I've planned to this like till now has ever worked.
Like girl, you thought you were the director.
Exactly. Like nothing has happened. I think that's the issue with manifestation and stuff like that too. Because sometimes you're like, obviously like manifestation and prayers, like believing it, faith and manifestation are kind of the same thing. But
it's you're manifesting on prayers and verses, not into the world.
Exactly. But when you're manifesting would just be like universe, whatever, like you're putting yourself in the center. And then that's when you kind of like shit don't happen, period. Or even when it does happen, like and it's just not working out for you.
In the book that I'm reading, I also saw. Heart lessons, you know, I know. Anyways, in the book that I saw, it said
the Bible verse for y'all to
when you're manifesting like with God, like in a spiritual way, and there's one with the world. The one with God is in that moment during that prayer manifestation, you're filling your mind with all of God's word. And then when you're manifesting with the world, you're trying to take every thought out of your brain. So it's different. Like, it's like you're removing thoughts, and there's one where you're putting in good thoughts. You're putting all of God's word into your head.
Yeah. And also, you know how, again, I don't know which, I know it's in one of the Gospels, but it says, like, the peace I give you is eternal. And, yeah, he's like, he gives you, like, the peace eternal that he gives you is, like, eternal, everlasting peace. That shows you that someone else also gives you. There's another entity that's giving you things. So
always,
you're manifesting this, just because your dreams are like
no one doesn't exist. It's just coming from the other side.
Yeah, it's coming from the other side, and it's always at a cost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going back to I literally made a TikTok about it. Oh, Matthew 6, chapter 6,
she did make a TikTok
25 to 34. That's like the whole Bible verse about like anxiety. And let me read it.
How do you do with anxiety? Here. With your faith?
I think that was a hard one too.
If you're having a moment, if you're worried about something.
I think that was like my hardest thing to let go because I am a very hands-on person and I'm very type A. So it's like
a control freak.
Yeah. So I'm like, literally, actually. She's like, so literally. So I'm like, if I can't even trust you, I'm like, okay, like I can trust God here. Like it's obviously hard in the beginning to let that go, but then I realized I'm so much more at peace, but I'm not the one controlling my life. And I've had this talk with like a lot of like our friends as well of just that peace that you get when you no longer feel like that you're the dictator of your life and you've let it go into God's hands. Exactly. And then it ends up working better than what you would have done. Because the days where I put it, like she said, put it under my own hands, it crumbled really bad.
Yeah.
And it's like the second I let go and you ask for help, it was just millions and millions. And you're also so much more at peace. Why was I trying to control everything when I was so much more anxious doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
I told you this fake schedule in my head that no one's aligning with, that nobody works.
She was getting pissed off every day. Like, oh, you're behind schedule.
I swear. And I'm like, no, like really let go. And it's so cliche to let go and let God. Because then at that point I was like, oh my gosh, like there's like this weight lifts off your shoulder that like I can't control you. You can't control me.
Exactly.
Only no matter what, it's what God has said is going to happen is going to happen. So
it helps you like live in like the present too.
100%.
Let me actually read it for you.
Yeah,
this is literally for you. It says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and body more than clothes? Look up at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet their heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they?
That part.
Literally, like, are you not more valuable than they? Like, why are you worrying?
He literally knows how many strands are on your head.
Yeah. Literally.
Which is metal too, but
I also think as humans, we just get used to like, well, your heart's beating and you're your lungs are giving you air. It's like, no, do you guys know, like, from a clinical standpoint, how much right now, what's happening right now, how much my brain is firing to move my hands, to talk, to all that.
100%.
People just think it's like scientific or whatever. You can go that way, but I just don't believe it. There's too many weird things that have to be perfect
for all this time,
for us to even be alive. What you mentioned, like waking up, taking a breath, like
it's all blessings that you don't count on.
Yeah, but we just take it as like, oh, well, every girl, every woman gives birth or whatever. It's like, no, all that is insane to me.
Remember,
but also really remarkable.
I told you last time I was telling her, like, when you're sick, it could be in any capacity. Yeah. But let's say you're really sick, like your life is on the line. And it's like someone was saying how they view others. Like someone may view you.
You're making cry now. Go ahead.
They view you with a crown on, but it's only visible to them.
Wait, I'm so confused.
So like, let's say like I'm really sick, right? Like I could be down with something, like God forbid, like you're very, very sick. You're healthy. They view you with the crown on, but it's only visible to them. Like
you view me
with that crown on, but only
you're the sick one and I'm healthy.
And you're just like walking around. It's like you feel like they feel like I want everything she has, but you don't, and you also feel like you have nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's really what I always go back to. That's actually my biggest thing. I'm like, I'm healthy. My family's healthy. Like
everything else can be worked
really
out.
count. Yeah, I'm like, I just count my blessings at the end of the day. Because if you're talking about everything negative in your life, is when you go in that spiral of.
Oh yeah, there's always way more to be like thankful for.
Oh, absolutely.
Than just like, even like, it can be like life can be horrible and just like, at least you're literally breathing and whatever. Do you know what I mean?
That's now, what I'm saying, count your blessings. I don't even
be like asking for shit because I'm like, oh my God, like, you know when you just like realize how much like life's going on for you? I'm like, okay, let me actually shut up.
Someone's like praying for your, like, what you think you have nothing. Someone's praying for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. You pray
for the bare, for what you think. That's what I'm saying.
You forget that you prayed
for what you think is the bare minimum, like a roof, food, a jacket, you know, anything. Literally, like they're praying for that. And I'm like, okay, let me. Sure.
I think something that's like, I don't know like how I picked it up, like how I picked up on it, but I've talked about it multiple times on this podcast too. Cause like every time before I go to sleep, I think of death and like me dying and not making it the next morning. But as like, I'm very comforted by like, thank God I have that. Cause like, when I wake up, I'm like, oh, thank you, God. Like, another day.
I thought you stopped doing this.
No, I never stopped, girl. Like, I don't
remember
think
she was in college.
Girl, I thought you were on
she would tell us, she would tell us literally in the middle of the night. And she's like, I feel like I'm about to fall asleep to death. And like, we're already roommates. So I'm going back to my room, like,
I'm realizing they don't think that way.
Literally.
Praying,
like, I'm like, Carmela, can you stop?
Like, I'm realizing they don't think that way. But Ruth works the same way, but it's the opposite. Because for her, it's that day. It's like, today might be the day I die. And for me, it's like, I might not wake up after this.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's so weird, but like it makes you like very like grateful because when I wake up now, I'm like, ooh,
you are more grateful.
I think she's another. I think as long as it's not debilitating, then yes.
It's not debilitating at all.
The result of that is she's just grateful.
Exactly.
Is like genuinely every time you wake up, Jesus is telling you, "I'm not done with you, babe."
That's what I'm saying. It's like another day.
Yeah.
But Ruth is like, this day might be the day I die.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel.
That's an extreme
version
of sleeping.
Coffee.
No, literally.
Which one y'all going to?
100%, girl.
Waking up or sleeping too?
I mean, I guess I would wake up grateful, which you should anyway, but.
I guess, yeah.
No. But I guess you're right. That's still scary,
I think I feel that way when I'm on flight. Since I fly a lot, I'm just like, it's out of control and I'm just like, it's up to you, Lord, and I just listen to my music and then keep going. That
really helps you like practice your like trust though in the Lord, because you literally cannot.
No, you're out of control.
It's out of your hands.
There's nothing. There's nothing I can do. I've never had a close call. Thank you, Jesus. But and just travel.
No, we had a close call. What are you talking about?
Girl,
on the way to Cabo,
we
had a very close call. The entire plane was screaming.
Really?
God forbid.
Oh no, Mila. We had a close call from Miami, but I was.
That was not as bad.
I don't remember.
I had to calm the people. I told the people. There was a couple next to me. I had to calm down. They were crying.
She was really terrified.
And I was also scared. So think about that. Imagine me scared, trying to calm down.
Like, and I had to be calm. I know I was dying laughing. I was like, I know she's scared, so she has to be calm. So I was just like, I was calm the entire time for her.
And then I
freaked out.
Yeah, because I was calming them down. I go, we're good, right?
And I was like, we're fine.
You're like, girl, it's fine.
And I'm like,
pray to God on this side. Window seat, like, oh God, please. Ooh, speaking of planes, you know what I thought of?
Yeah.
Actually, our favorite podcaster, Emmy Moore, like on Save
Emmy.
Now that we're bringing her up on a proper.
Sorry, Paul.
Literally, sorry, Paul. But there was this one episode where she was talking about like flying, like when she like flying on a plane and stuff. And you know how like there's a lot of turbulence when you're going up in the like when you're in the clouds, but then once you're up, it's like a beautiful view and you see like God's creation and stuff like that. And sometimes like your life can be that way where like you're in the turbulent seat, like, you know, where like you have to actually let go and just like trust God. Yeah. Because it might be rocky or like life might be just
and
like,
then you get to the
crazy. And then he gets you out of it, and then you see the beautiful like view and like God's creation. And 100%. I literally thought of that when I was on a plane like recently, and I'm just like, oh wow, like it's like as we're going up, I was like, oh my God, this is what she was talking about, girl.
Right. That is true.
Fuck it.
Literally, but yeah,
because you're right. That turbulence can be scary, like actually genuinely
100%. In those moments when you guys are scared, like it doesn't have to be on a plane. Like when you do feel like fearful or anything, like what is your first thing your brain goes to?
Before it used to be like what should I do or who do I call and stuff like that. Now it's like pray.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like
mine is definitely prayer. I think for me that quick like I'm scared is when my safety is compromised in any way. For me. And I could get scared so quickly.
True.
Like,
but if you had like a longer time to just think and you're scared, like where's your mind at?
It would have to be a version of my faith, whether it's like I reach out to one of you guys and be like, this is how I'm feeling, whatever, and then we'd have that conversation, or I would pray. But it's like internal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Before it used to be my last resort. Like praying would be my last resort. Now it's my first. Like I don't even gotta ask nobody. I'm not even moving from my seat. I'm praying.
100%. Oh yeah.
And then what they spoke about at service, they were just like, if you have to put it into your alarm until it becomes muscle memory, like and don't feel bad about it.
That's I'd be having whole dialogues in my head with God the entire day. Literally, what are we eating? Where are we going? Like it's real dialogue.
It's your best friend.
One thing I would recommend though, prayer journal. It's changed my life. I feel like
that expedited a lot of things for me.
Yeah, like
really?
I started with like, because I'm the type of person, like we all have ADHD, so I feel like I'm speaking for all of us.
I've tried a couple times and I failed every time because
you
have
to be locked in.
Because like when I'm praying like this and like talking to God, I have like such a scattered brain. Like I can't like. I just treat God as an ATM where I'm like, God, please do this or do this for me, but whatever. Like I'm just asking him things. But when I'm journaling, it's like as if I'm writing a letter to God every day. And when you're writing a letter, you address who you're talking to. So I'm like, dear God, and then you go instantly to gratitude because you're not even going to ask anything because it's like, who are you talking to? You know what I mean? So
and writing it
I end up doing half the page is just straight gratitude. In the end, it was like, well, actually, like I'm so happy. Actually,
like
that
5th grade,
you want to like whatever.
100%.
Yeah, because when you're like, thank you for this, like in detail, like thanking him for little things you have, it literally just minimizes the things that you want. And I'm like,
100%.
You know what? Like whatever.
When you visualize it, it's easier for you to like
exactly.
So
once you say once you're saying the prayer or in your mind, or even if you're saying it out loud, it's already left and you've almost like forgotten about it. But if you're writing it down, it's all there.
Exactly.
100%.
So you're a little bit more like intentional. Yeah.
And you're more like you realize what's called his blessings more than like the things that you're lacking.
Yeah. If any time I use this exercise sometimes, I actually stole it from actually a mentor, but also like my psychology professor who would sprinkle in faith, which she wasn't supposed to do that, but I was like, Dr. Riggs, what's that? What's Jesus? And I would talk to her on the side, but she would always like, if you would ever get anxious or like at a time where you're having a moment and you're just kind of like either ungrateful or just like you're having a moment and you're just like, today was the worst day, like whatever, we have those days, like I'm tired or whatever. She always says, give me 5. And what she means by that is like, go down the list. By the time you get to the 2nd or 3rd or 4th, you kind of forget. It's like a physical response that happens. Yeah. Girl, when you're like, girl, I'm here. Like, I have food on this plate. My family's here. No one died.
3.
By the 4th, 5th, girl. And then we always had a joke. She was like, how far did you get? I'm like, I had to get to 7 to like get grateful. She's like, today I only had to get to 2. Like, and that's how you clock in. Like,
that's
how
good
bad
though,
was it? She's like, okay, if you get to 10, we have to lock in.
You know when you're like going to like talk to someone, like to ask for something, but then you're not immediately gonna ask like, hey, by the way, can I get this? Whatever. You're going to have a little small talk. Correct. And then sometimes like that small talk conversation gets really good that you even forget what you're asking. You're like,
that is very true.
It's not important anymore.
It leaves your brain off. Yeah, that does happen.
Like address him. That's such a good point.
So get your journals, guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Amazon.
Get a journal. Especially if you're like starting off too. I feel like that was really helpful for me. I didn't like do prayers in there, but just like learning everything. Yeah, it was so helpful. Now I can go back if I get something. I'm like, what was I thinking then? Yeah. Or like, what did I write down? Or what did I like? It is really helpful.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys this before we actually wrap up. What are you guys hoping that people even get or hear from this podcast? Like, from all the content that we've shot and stuff.
Like from like this podcast right now?
Yeah. Why talk about our faith?
That's a good question.
I would say to understand that like your walk with Christ or faith in general is just like a personal like, walk. And obviously we're not really sitting here like as if we know it all, or
because we do not.
We clearly don't know.
Which no one does in faith.
We're
That's the whole
literally
point of it.
looking up things. Yeah. Exactly. Or even like, sometimes like your mind can just like wander off. Like it's like our brain, it's like us and God. It's not like us teaching y'all or like condemning you or whatever. Correct. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like if you take anything from this, it's one, it's a personal journey, and two, it's like you can still talk about God even though you don't know much about it, because it's your own testimony. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not pros at all, but we're just like,
dang, I needed to hear that.
Because it sometimes holds you back. Like I would want to talk about like God 100%. And everything, like even on like social media and stuff, but I'm like, it's a part of I? Yeah, but I'm like, I don't know anything, and I don't want to like lead anyone astray, because I don't even want to lead at all, because I'm not there. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I just want to talk about it. And I'm like,
you can talk about your testimony.
So like, just get comfortable and just like talk about it, because don't make it like your personal life and then God. It shouldn't be a separate life.
Very true.
Just integrate it into you.
No,
and
I
just
have a personal life because of him.
Exactly.
And if you're not like, I guess like close enough that it's naturally integrated in your personal life, so you can't even separate the two.
Correct.
Exactly.
Like if people know you, they'll be like, oh, like I see certain characteristics, like you said before. If you weren't able to talk, what characteristics can they see off you that like is like, oh, like she's so enlightening, or like I enjoy being around her, but it's like you get that from God.
Yeah. Remember I told you the Bamboozled by Jesus
book
by Yvonne Orji?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The line that I'll always remember is she said, some people will never know Jesus. The only Jesus, I put that in air quotes, is you, because Jesus is in you. Is God in trouble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is what she said. And
that's a great quote, yeah.
Is God in trouble? What the?
No, I love that.
That puts more responsibility. Like, girl, like, don't say it. Just walk it. Like,
yeah, because that's so true. I like that.
From not being judgmental, like
100%.
Kindness, understanding, slow to anger. That is something I'm working on.
Anger, that's a big
You know
one.
what I mean? To not to like react. Like,
and then if they're like anyone, like if you can't really like see Jesus and people around you, because there's probably going to be people where like you're in the wrong situations or wrong environment where you can't really see Jesus through it. There's a book that tells you all about it.
Thank
so let's
you.
just
Link
pick
the
it
Bible
up. And if you're like, suffering with like anxiety, depression, or whatever, we've all been anxious, we've all been depressed. It's just know
where to get
we
that
all
source
can't,
from.
but there's someone who can. And just go and just read your Bible, honestly.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, you're going to find real eternal joy and peace, not from the world or your friends or music or
literally
anybody, celebrities. You're going to find it from
everything
the Bible.
And then there's him. Yeah.
And is it crazy how Summer Fridays cost more than the Bible?
That's going to be our last.
I said Summer Friday lip gloss costs more than the Bible. That's the
Oh my
world we
God,
live
I
in.
saw that.
That's the world we live in. Huh?
She is gagging the audience right now.
No, I
That's
saw that,
Anything you guys want to add or share before we wrap up this episode?
That's it. Give Jesus a chance, read the Bible, get to know him. That's part. It.
Yeah. And
this is a really good
again,
part.
I mean, you said it beautifully, but again, like we're on our journey as well. This isn't like we're telling you what to do or like we know everything type of thing, because the whole point of this is we don't know it all. We never will. So
and you only need God for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you see the face of person,
be Lord and Savior for that.
Check God, not me,
brother.
Oh, period. She said, "Check God, not me."
Right, exactly. We'll see you in our next episode, guys. Thank you so much for viewing, watching, subscribing, doing all the things.
Yeah, love y'all.
We really do appreciate it. We'll see you in our next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.